everyone. I'm Ari here with Rachel, and we're your hosts for the Merry Writer podcast. This week we're on episode 331, asking, how can you make your readers cry? Before we start, don't forget to visit and follow our Ko-fi page where you can access lots of goodies for free. If you are in a position to support us, you can become a Merry Writer for $2 a month and get access to exclusive content. Everything earned on Ko-fi goes into keeping the show going, and we do appreciate any support. Okay, so why do we want to make our readers cry? Because it's fun. We want them blubbering away, traumatized from our stories. Some of the biggest stories I remember, especially when I was younger, are the ones where I ended the book in tears and I had to just sit there and just stare off into the distance for a long time. Looking at You, Watership Down, seriously. And Secret of Nim, which is not what it was called. The book is called, I want to say, Mrs. Frisbee and the Rats of Nim. Oh, can't read that again. Kids' book, can't read it again. And do not even read Plague Dogs. Seriously. Like, don't do that to yourself.
I only know these because you've talked about them before, but I will say that yes, the best books are the ones that leave you feeling so empty and so full at the same time.
Yeah, like hollowed out, like if someone just scooped out
Yes.
everything and you're just like this emptiness, like, oh,
Yeah, like you're still thinking about it a week after you finish the
yes.
book and you just all the feels. And I'll say right off the bat that no book gets a 5 star from me unless it makes me cry. Like that's my 5 star criteria. If you make me feel all the feels to the point that I cry from sadness, from hurt, from anger, whatever, from laughter, it's not a 5 star. That's just not saying it's not good, but I prefer it if books make me cry.
Rach is there with the harsh
Yep,
rating scheme. It's
exactly.
like you need to cry or it's just 4 stars. Now, obviously, we're being obviously a bit of tongue in cheek. We're not just talking about how to make readers cry. We're also talking about just making readers feel emotional connection. And crying and sorrow and like heartbreak are some of the biggest ones. They're the ones that sort of sit with you. Of all the emotions you go through throughout your life, the ones that kind of rip out your heart are usually the ones that stay the strongest in the memory. So go on, let's talk about how can you make your readers cry. And I'll go first. This is where show over tell is so important because you don't tell people that the couple broke up. You don't tell people that, this woman lost her fiance in a fire. You don't do that. You show it. You show your character sitting at the dining table, listening to the ticking of the clock, because that's the only sound while she has her meal alone again for however many times it's been. And she can't put any sounds on. She's just trapped in the same routine over and over, looking across at the empty seat that's never going to get filled. That's what you do. You show the space of where the person was supposed to be. You show the heartbreak. You show the love letters burned in a fire, but not fully. It's little pieces like that that you help to show the heartbreak that someone's going through. You don't sit there saying, oh, well, they're crying because they're sad their partner cheated on them. They're crying because they're sad that their partner didn't come back. They're sad that their father went to war and never came home. No, that's just telling all the time. Try and put the pieces in. Try and put those feelings of space into your story. If someone has passed away and you're talking about grief, grief is crushing. It's also empty. It's such a weird feeling. You feel crushed by emptiness. I love the sense of that, but also it's one of the most horrifical things. Horrifical. It's one of the most horrific things to feel when you lose someone, especially if it is unexpected, especially if they're younger than they don't die of old age, they pass away, and they're younger. It's hard to cope with. But you don't sit there thinking, this person has passed. This person is not here anymore. You don't think about that. You think of the missed moments. You think about the time that, oh, well, when I'm stressed, I ring that person to, I can't do that anymore. And then there's that emptiness. That's what you're trying to put in the book. You're not pointing out that they're not coming back. You're showing that there's a space that they should have occupied. That's how you kind of dig into the heart. I think a lot of that was a bit of whiffle.
No, I mean that was a lot deeper than I thought it was going to go, especially since for context, everybody, Ari's notes simply say dining room clock, and that's it. So I had no idea where she was going with that. And it was very beautiful. It was well said. And that kind of goes into my point about writing relatable characters that your readers can bond with. And I will bounce off of the whole grief situation and, people dying and that empty space because that is something that everybody can relate to. And if you're going through a heartbreak and you went through a divorce or you're a widow or widower and you were sitting at the dining room table just listening to the clock and you no longer can ask your significant other, "Hey, how was work today?" And they can't ask you and you're just sitting there in silence. I think we've all been there at one point or another, like, obviously in our own way. Like we're all not just sitting at the dining room table listening to the clock, but it's relatable in a sense that it reminds you of a certain moment of your own life and you can relate to that character and you can bond over that missed feeling, essentially. And we've talked about how to write relatable characters. We've talked about character development and, all of that stuff in many other podcast episodes previously. So I won't touch too much upon it because I think Ari said it really well, that it's something that your readers can just sit in silence with the characters. And that, in and of itself, despite the silence, speaks volumes. Pulled that one out of my ass. That was good.
Hey, sometimes that's the best thing. It comes out and it's like, don't know where that was coming from. Well, that's it. It's like the idea of the dining room and the clock. Because it's like if you're with someone and you're chatting, it's like you might never have noticed that that clock made a noise until there was absence of that person. And now all you can hear is that clock. Because let's be honest, we've all had that moment where there's a clock or some other noise and you can't not focus on it and you're just like hooked in. Oh, and it's very poignant when you're already feeling so many feelings and you're just struggling under the weight of it all to then have this small irritation that's almost like it's every single tick is saying not here, they're not here, they're not here. So, and that comes from this concept, and you'll have heard this somewhere else, I'm sure, that the bigger the issue, the smaller you go. Okay, and if you haven't heard that, it's like if you're talking about war, or if you're talking about death, or if you're talking about being diagnosed with like a life-threatening illness. Those are huge life-changing. Obviously, war is a very huge life-changing experience. So is all these, and they're all different in their own way, and they have impacts to each individual person and the outer circles in different ways. But they are big issues. So the bigger they are, go smaller. So when you've got the war, you don't think about the war. You don't write the whole war out. You focus on maybe the triage tent, the people coming back who are injured, or maybe the lines of like sheets covering the bodies. That's what you do. You don't write the whole thing. You focus on these small areas. You focus on the neighborhood that was once full of life and is now crumbling. And maybe there's just like posters of an event and that's just torn and that's the only piece of color in that whole area. You don't have to write about anything more than that, and that will echo deeper with a lot of readers than having it all described in detail. Same with an illness. You don't have to show all the doctor's appointments. You don't have to show that. You can show the letter that they get to say it. You can show the quiet moments where they're alone with their thoughts and they can't think of anything else, because when you're when you're at appointments or when you're dealing with when everything's in motion, it's distracting. It's the same with death. If you lose somebody and you're having to deal with their estate and all their stuff, it's busy. It's so busy. There's so much you have to deal with You are constantly moving, you are constantly ringing people and sorting things and checking things. But when that stops, when it's nighttime, when you've nobody else to ring at that moment and you've no more paperwork to go through and you don't have to speak to anyone, that's the time when all the grief rushes back in, because at the moment it was pushed out while you were busy. It's the same with appointments. While you're going to appointments, yes, you're thinking about things, it's in your head, but it's also busy. There's things going on. You're in hospital, you can hear noises and people moving. It's quiet moments, small moments. That's when the feelings come in. And that's what you're looking at. You're looking at wedging these feelings into small spaces, sort of focusing down on the smallest thing, not seeing the big picture. Because you have this idea that, oh, if I'm talking about war, if I'm talking about death, if I'm talking about illness, we need to show the whole picture. We need to show the whole family suffering and struggling and how's it affecting them. Nope, you can. But if you want to pull it down to one small aspect, and focus on that one small thing, make it more real. Because the bigger the picture, the blurrier it gets. And I feel you lose the taste of the emotion. That sounds so good, but I don't think it is.
No, no, I get what you're saying because it's like if you focus on the big picture, then there's too many things to look at and there's too many things to focus on. And if you tighten that focus, then it really gives the readers like one-tracked mind probably isn't the correct term because obviously you don't want to give your readers tunnel vision when you have subplots and stuff going on. But for the most part, like it really just tightens their focus and they're able to really just be in the moment with whatever the characters are going through and they can go through it with them. And I mean, Ari explained it very well, but essentially just write from your heart because I want to say it was Ernest Hemingway, and Ari, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was Ernest Hemingway who said, if there are no tears in the writer, then there are no tears in the reader. I don't even know if I'm saying that quote correctly. Was that Ernest Hemingway?
That is the right quote, I'm almost sure, but I can't remember if it's him. It's like anything though. I've noticed there's like people will say, "Oh, this person quoted it," and then you find out there's four people it's attributed to, and you never really know who it is. So we'll say possibly Ernest Hemingway. He came up with some good ones.
Okay. Maybe Ari can look it up when she edits it and she can just put a little blurb in the YouTube and be like, yes, this was by Ernest Hemingway, or no, it was by Fabio. I don't know. Well, I just also want to say one other thing is that when we talk about, we've been talking a lot in this episode of making readers cry, like sad tears, because we've been talking about death and illness and war and the like. But there are other ways, there are other emotions that you can make your readers feel, and you can make them cry from happiness, you can make them cry from anger. I mean, even that heartbreak scene that can also bring on anger if especially if you end up showing the breakup at one point or another. There are all these different things. You don't have to make your readers sad throughout the book. There are other ways. You want to sprinkle out all the different emotions. And to be brutally honest, I just thought of this now. I have no tips to make your readers cry happy tears or anything like that because let's be honest, comedy is subjective for a lot of people. But it's just something to keep in mind. You don't have to rip out your readers' hearts and stomp all over them just to, hand it back to them. There are other ways to go about it. But making them cry the sad tears probably is like the easiest way to go, which is kind of weird to think about.
True, true. I've got 2 points. It wasn't Ernest Hemingway. It was Robert Frost. Uh
Really?
yes, and it's
Oh,
no tears in the writer, no tears in the reader. Yes, correct quote. Yeah.
interesting. Okay, never mind. Don't listen to me.
Oh. And the second thing is you could do happy tears without it being like a funny comedy thing. You could do it. It's like it usually comes when I think back, it's usually with movies. It's like salvation moments where you think someone's died and then they didn't, and it's like, oh my god, yeah, they're alive. Especially, let's be honest, especially if it's an animal, and you're like, oh my god, I thought the dog was dead, and it's like, no, they saved them at the last minute, and they come out and it's holding the dog, and it's like, oh my god, that can completely make you cry happy tears. Yeah.
Homeward Bound.
Oh, stop it. No. No, the cat in the
That makes
water.
you cry
Oh,
all the emotions.
seriously. Oh, Oh no, I can't watch that. I remember my brother used to love that, and would have it on all the time. Can't really
Oh
say
my
anything because I used
gosh.
to watch Land Before Time all the time, and if you know, you
Oh,
know. So
yep. I love Land
when
Before Time.
when you grow up with the childhood trauma of Land Before Time, Secret and Nim, Never Ending Story, Watership Down, it does give you this nice pool of traumatic emotions to drag up and inflict on other people. So yeah,
I will also suggest, obviously this is a TV show, it's not a book, but if any of you have watched Maid, M-A-I-D, on Netflix, that made me bawl my eyes out in the last episode because they were tears of triumph. So that was also an excellent, just saying.
I will throw in the movie Space Sweepers. That had me like, no, in a good way, but well, it's very sad, but the whole movie is brilliant. But yeah, there's a few bits where it's like the trauma. It's very sad. Actually, you know what? Before we end this, let's throw in when you're leaving comments, if you decide to leave comments, share one or two of the books or movies that kind of ripped your heart out, that made you feel really intensely, and if possible, if it made you cry. Don't put spoilers in. I appreciate we've probably spoiled things, but if it's a book, don't spoil it. But don't say such a body died at the end. Don't do that. Yeah, list your tear jerkers, movies and books. Let's throw them all out there. Let's get traumatized together.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, I think obviously like movies are a very different medium than books, but I think if there are certain movies and TV shows that make you cry and make you feel a lot of th feels, that's good research for when you're writing your book because you can really pay attention to the cinematography of how everything is laid out before you, and then you can try to figure out how to translate that into the written word.
Yes, I agree. They are good for that. That's why I watch a lot of movies for research purposes, not procrastination. Okay, go on. We want to hear your thoughts. What tips do you have for bringing out your readers' emotions? Could be positive, could be negative, could be neutral. Let's chat about it in the comments. Remember, we release new episodes every Wednesday. Next week, we are interviewing another author on our show. To ensure you don't miss it, hit the subscribe button on your way out. If you'd like to learn more about us, check out our website at themerrywriterpodcast.podbean.com and our copy page for more content. Thanks for listening to the Merry Writer Podcast. We'll see you next week. This podcast is brought to you by Too Many Ideas. We keep writing sequels. The music titled Inspired is by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under Creative Commons 4.0.